Yes, hello, it's Chubby. Okay, I've done a separate video on the Bivol Ramirez fight. But the early fights, let's look at those. So there was Cal Yafai, I think it's Cal, not the Olympic medalist brother, the other one. He was in a fight against what's called the Filipino guy called Pekla. Okay. Now, what was weird about this fight was that I went to one of my bookies. Yeah, and after Yafai was knocked down twice, and they only counted one knockdown, the incompetent referee, but he got knocked down twice. And I went on one of my bookies, and it had the original price on Pekla at 12-1. I dumped like 25 quid on it. I'm like, blood clot, these guys. It wasn't an in-price bet. It was, they didn't realize the fight had started. I thought, come on, man, these guys are crazy. Ultimately, yeah, Pekla slowed down. He should have won that fight, you know. But Yafai, in the end, deservedly won it. But, man, I was about to win a lot of money. I put 25 quid on at 12-1. You know, what's that like? Wait, what's that, man? Yeah, that's like 300 quid, I think, right? For a fight that had already started. But ultimately, you know, Yafai won. He deserved it, but he didn't look good. And Pekla should have won that. Okay. And then we moved on, which, you know, by the way, you occasionally get some chances where the bookies mess things up and they allow you the odds when the fight started and sometimes when it's finished. I won money. I won $1.5 grand in total in about 3 fights that the bookies didn't realize it started. And I put on the bets after the result was 3-1. This wasn't quite that, but at least, you know, I mean, they hadn't changed the odds. And in the middle of the fight, I still got 12-1 against a guy who had 2 knockdowns. Although, as I said, only one counted. But anyway, it's one of those things that didn't happen for the Triple B. But so Rakhimov is fighting Zelfa Barrett, a.k.a. the Brown Flash. Now, I'm not being funny. Like, his uncle, Pat Barrett, who I think is also his trainer, was an amazing puncher with his deadly left hook, and he's called Black Flash because he's black. Zelfa Barrett is mixed, so he's brown. But to call himself Brown Flash, I mean, it sounds like some kind of, you know, skid mark. He might as well call himself the Brown Skid Mark. I don't know what Zelfa was thinking, but he's a tough guy. He's a tough guy. And in the lead up, I was like, man, Zelfa's got so much bigger than Rakhimov. He had every advantage, the broad shoulders, the longer arms. You know, he looked a weight divisional 2 above Rakhimov. But, I mean, I had faith in Rakhimov. Okay. And Rakhimov is from Tajikistan. I don't know how many fighters they have. Not a lot. I think he would be the first. I think he's the first world champion of Tajikistan. And weirdly, he's got loads of tattoos, which are haram in Islam. I mean, they're also not allowed in Judaism or Christianity, but people forget that. But certainly you don't see a lot of Muslims with tattoos, except the US ones that are completely clueless. But this guy's a Tajik, so that was odd. He even had a tattoo of what's called the crescent and the star, so that is weird. But regardless, I knew he was a solid fighter, and I had him to beat Cordina as well. And I expect him to stop Barrett. I said that again and again. Okay, my two predictions were Rakhimov KO and Ramirez points. I wasn't sure about the Ramirez points, but I thought the value was there. That didn't happen, but the Rakhimov stoppage happened. But it was not easy. Now, what is weird? So Barrett entered wearing this big purple. You know, I told you about the royal thing and the purple thing, and he had this kind of, I don't know, this gladiator's kind of skirt on. It had a lot of purple on it. And I was like, whoa, is that a sign? You know, you can read things into it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that means I'm going to win. It just means it's a sign. And early on, he showed nice movement, body shots. Yeah, he had power. You know, had that. You know that those fast, hard shots. You know, and Rakhimov got dropped and hurt. But he's very, very tough, and he carried on going. He also got hit low with a dreadful shot by Barrett. but he he took the time and came back. Funny thing was they had Joe Cordina in the fight, and they asked him, apparently he's good friends with Zelfa Barrett. He was meant to be fighting for this title, and he got absolutely disgracefully stripped of his title. So I'm in Joe Cordina's camp, and he turned up wearing this towel on his head. It almost seemed like a sketch from like a 1950s British comedy. This white kind of British guy turning up with a towel on his head, wrapped around his head like a sultan. It was amusing to me. And Barrett was looking good early on. He kept on pouring a bit of his eye, and the thing is, whenever Rakhimov landed shots, to his body and to his head, he seemed a bit rattled. I just noticed that he seemed to be more rattled, even though Rakhimov had been down and wobbled. And they were, during the fight, they kept on showing the names at ringside. I was shocked by how many big names there was. Povetkin, Fat Andy Ruiz, Gay Jay was there, Bakomir Jalolov, who to me is the next generation heavyweight champion. Roy Jones as well. Very weird, man. I mean, it was a massive. I mean, I know they're trying to push, sport in Middle Eastern countries, especially Saudi, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, this kind of stuff. But they're blatantly doing it, and you know what? Eventually, and at some point I was going, I'm gonna put something in play on Rakhimov by KO, because he just, those little shots, and the commentary kept on missing it, and little hard shots underneath the elbows in the face, they were hurting Barrett. And sure enough, his legs started going, and I knew, and I should have looked. Have a look, put an in play thing in. But I put enough money on. I don't bet a lot of money. And I was like, you know what? I'll just rest on what I got. And I won on Rakhimov, and he stopped Barrett. Yeah, and Barrett crumbled, and he knew he was beaten properly. He was given a hiding. There's one thing to catch someone with a lucky shot. It's what and to be on top when you're broken down. After being on top to the stopped, you've lost. You could see it in Zelfa's eyes, but, he gave a great fight. It was great to see a solid, decent, to me, honest fight. Yeah. But like I said, I could just see Rakhimov catch him. Even when he was getting hurt, I was like, if he rides through this, I think he'll still win. And Chubby was right. But, I wasn't right on the Ramirez-Bivol fight. Anyway, what else happened? So there was I didn't even watch it. What was it? McCaskill vs. What's the other lesbian called? I can't even remember her name. But apparently she's British. And all through the bill, the commentary kept doing, and every time they mentioned the fight, this will probably be the fight of the night, and everyone can't wait for this fight. I was like, are you serious? I don't know. No one on the boxing forums, on the social media is going, I can't wait for this fight. Not a single soul. Yeah? And it was announced by David Greenblatt, a.k.a. David Diamante. Yeah, and he seemed to have a sore throat tonight. His voice was extra deep. Overall, it was a poor show, to be honest. The arena looked completely empty when they showed it. And the main fight, yeah, the seats close to ringside were the only things they showed, and they seemed full. And they're playing like UK grime the whole night. And anyway, so what's her name? Is it Chantel Cameron? Was that her name? That she won against McCaskill. Again, just another whack women's fight. Just pathetic. So poor. Like I said, any novice male amateur would walk through these women. And they can repeat, this will be the fight of the night. Oh, it's going to be a firefight for this last round. Really? It was just another rubbish slap fest. These hoes make Campbell and Hatton, who was on the undercard, look like a kind of chimera of Marcy Arnold, Joe Frazier, Jack Dempsey, Jersey Joe Walker and Joe Louis rolled into one fighter. That's how whack they were, you know. And the big talking point in the commentary of the evening was, Chantal Cameron took up boxing because she was a big Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. I mean, blood clot. And to me, the Rakhimov Zelfa Barrett fight saved the bill. The Ramirez Bivol was disappointing. Was disappointing to me. It looked like a very good sparring session. Don't get me wrong, a very good sparring session. But neither of them took any serious risks. Which seems to be what happens with the big so-called super fights in modern boxing. You know, they just always seem to go to the distance, and no one takes serious risks like they used in the 80s and 90s, you know. You know, the Haglers, the Hearns, the Durans, the Lennons. I don't want to sound like a cliche, but they went to win by stoppage in all their fights. Now they just want to get the distance. Yeah, that's my dog snoring, by the way. So, another disappointing boxing night. But as I said, to me, for the Triple B, the Zelfa Barrett Rakhimov fight saved it, because it was a genuine back and forth fight. But Zelfa gave everything he had. Rakhimov ultimately was too tough, too strong, even though he had every disadvantage. But and that's the only that's the fight I made money won. If Ramirez won on points, man, I'd be laughing and rolling in it, but he didn't. But I still believe it was the decent bet to take. 7-1 on points. Ramirez was good value. It didn't happen, but that's how you bet. I understand me. If you know anything about betting, you bet on value. You don't bet on result. You feel me? Anyway, yeah. So tomorrow I'm going to rinse out Max Jenkins and a couple of others. So, yeah, good night, man. That's where it's at.